Well, it has been a minute. We are back for the Climate Tech Inc. NFL prediction show. Cole McDaniel, Vince McKee, and it is officially playoff time. We didn't have to do a show of trying to make picks, but fail through week 17 and week 18, some of the toughest weeks of the year to make our picks. So that being said, now we get to move into the postseason, the playoffs. A lot of times we're very aligned. I got a good feeling, Vince, that if there's any year where we're not on the same page with picks, there's a good chance it could be this year because a lot of the usual faces, they are not there, especially on the AFC side. The biggest, most notable team that is not present, the Kansas City Chiefs, not in the playoffs this year. The Baltimore Ravens, they didn't make it after losing the Pittsburgh Steelers either. So some of the teams that we've come accustomed to seeing in recent times, they are not in the playoffs. But before we dive into this, we turn the calendar year 2026. Happy New Year, everybody. And reminder, this new year, throughout 2026, if you need anything with your HVAC services, who are you going to call, Vince?
Climate Tech Inc. This is their sixth year, going on seven next year. They've already sent in the check and re-signed a year ahead of time. I love when they do that because at Climate Tech Inc. they provide top quality heating, air conditioning, and ventilation services focused on your comfort. Check them out, climate-tech.com. Cole, you took the words out of my mouth like you almost always do. How crazy is it? And I say this to you as a compliment, not a insult in any way, so please don't take it that way. But how crazy is it to you? Okay, your Super Bowl pick in the beginning of the year was Baltimore over Green Bay.
Right.
Not only is Baltimore not in the playoffs, they just fired their coach, and the Packers, yeah, they made it in as the seventh seed with a 9-7-1 record. Who in a million years would have saw that coming, right? Crazy. Who would have told me or you that we would have believed them? Because there's no way I think either of us would have ever said, "Yeah, you're right." If somebody came to us week one and said your number one seeds are going to be the Denver Broncos and the Seattle Seahawks, not a snowball's chance in hell I was going to believe it. This has been by far. There's six games this opening weekend. I think you're right. I think we probably pick at least three of them different. This is insane. I love it. This is going to be a blast. I have no idea who's going to win. Every single team has a serious fault to them, including the Philadelphia Eagles. Your defending Super Bowl champions. They look weak. I mean, this is just crazy right now. Like, look at these records. Hey, all I can say is my guy, Mr. Duval himself over there in Jacksonville. Wow, 13-4 wins the division. Houston comes all the way back. Everybody left Houston for dead. They come charging back. I mean, this is easily. Oh, the Detroit Lions. You talk about teams that disappointed you.
Yep.
Throw the Lions there. As I look over all the helmets here, this is just crazy how this all wrapped up.
Well, the Baltimore Ravens, I think they made a wrong decision in firing John Harbaugh. Makes no sense
Yep.
to me. He's been successful for 18 years. I think it was almost a desperation move of the Ravens of, hey, he's been here for 18 years. We've for a while now felt like we have a championship caliber roster, and we haven't been able to get over the Kansas City Chiefs hump, similar to the Buffalo Bills. And now the Chiefs had a down year. This could have been our year, and we end up missing the playoffs. I know they had injuries, but they had their ups and downs. So it's like this was our opportunity to strike, and we didn't strike. Not only did we not get to the point where we could, hey, get over the Chiefs hump, make a run to the AFC Championship and become a Super Bowl contender, maybe even win a Super Bowl like I thought would happen this year. They didn't even make it there. It came down to a must-win game against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and ultimately they lost. But I don't think you can pin that all on John Harbaugh, especially when it comes to injuries. But a tough season across the board for them. They should have performed better, but I mean, do you really want to get rid of John Harbaugh and think you're going to find a better coach at the moment? I really don't think so. I don't. I think you just fired him and put. He is now the best name on the coaching market at the moment. There's young guys. There's people that have long futures about to happen in their NFL careers as coaches. But of the experienced available names, John Harbaugh's by far and away the best. And I think every Browns fan, whether you like the Harbaughs or not, Jim's a little bit more the kook. I've always thought John's a little bit more the normal one. I would take John Harbaugh any day because I think he's going to give you a really good chance of winning. And it's what I said to you off air. If we have John Harbaugh and you're able to keep Jim Schwartz, you're looking pretty good already on that coaching staff going into next year for the young talent that we see that the Cleveland Browns have. You can maybe build off of what you developed in the draft this last year.
Yep.
Maybe have another good draft, and with a coaching staff like that, I like the chances of the Cleveland Browns moving forward for years to come. As long as they can fill some of those holes on the offensive line, get a good receiver, and figure out what they're going to do at quarterback, not only next year, whether it's just a bridge or Shador Sanders, and or if you're going to actually, get a new quarterback in 2026, or if you're going to just try to roll into 2027, focused on getting a quarterback then at that point. But regardless, Vince, thing is, that's why the Ravens made their decisions. You're right, the Packers, I didn't see them being a seventh seed because I thought they'd win the division, just edging out the Detroit Lions. But it's the Chicago Bears that mess things up there. The Bears outperformed what I even think that they have talent wise on their team at the moment. Really good season for them. And they caused the Packers, who looked really strong to start the year, to have to chase them a little bit. The Lions were chasing, and ultimately the Lions, they missed the playoffs. So a lot of topsy-turvy things. As the Chiefs had their downfall, the Broncos, they took over. I thought that that they were going to be the second team in that division and get a wild card. Here they are, the team with the best record in the AFC, winning a lot of close games, but every time that it was close, they kept getting the wins, similar to the Kansas City Chiefs last year. And then you have the Seahawks, who I thought were going to be worst team in their division, with some changes, and here they
Maybe.
are with the number one seed in the NFC, and they have a bye. So just a ton of crazy stuff. I know we're about to get to those picks, but I mean, you're spot on
Well,
with some of the teams that you reference.
Seattle's unbelievable with that receiver, right? And it goes to show you how good one receiver can make a quarterback look, how good one receiver can make an offensive coordinator look. Seattle is a perfect example of that. I mean, wow, is all I can say, right? So here's the other thing, too, excuse me. The Bears got it right with their head coach search. The Jacksonville Jaguars got it right with their head coach search. So that should give teams like the Cleveland Browns, the Baltimore Ravens, the Giants, there's one obvious one, the Raiders, where, hey, you have a chance where a guy can come in and turn around quickly. You saw the Bears were middle of the road for so long with their old coach. Um, Aberhouse, or I forget his last name, was a goofy last name, but Ben Johnson comes right in and gets him over the hump. Same with Liam Cohen in Jacksonville, did the same thing, right? So sometimes maybe that is it. I wasn't a huge Stefanski fan, but I didn't really hate him either. And the Browns are kind of right in that middle of the road where maybe it is, hey, we're a head coach away. Who knows, right? So we'll see what happens there. We got games to break down. The only thing I'll say about Jadar Sanders is I don't know what people are expecting to see. He's one of those guys who'll win every press conference. I like him as a person. He actually won me over
Yeah.
if what he's saying is the truth. Which who
Hmm.
knows, it could be lip service. Who knows? These guys are trained now of what to say and what not to say. I love his mentality. I like him as a leader. I like him as a teammate. Doesn't have the skill set. He is
Right.
god awful. God, he's bad.
Yeah.
And people want to talk about the three wins. He had nothing to do with those three wins. Zero. Like, go back and look at it. Even Dylan Gabriel, when the Browns beat the Dolphins, Gabriel had nothing to do with that win.
Yeah.
So really stupid that people are blaming, how he led them to a 3-4 record. He really didn't, so especially that Pittsburgh game. So a lot to break down there. But as we get to it here, the last thing I'll say before we start picking games, talk about head coaches. Um, I still think there's one to go, and that is if Jacksonville wins this weekend. Don't be shocked if Sean McDermott is the next one to be fired. I was telling our guys, Brandon and Brandon, over the weekend, got together with SP and Marvel for some wings. And we were talking about it, and I said, don't be surprised if Buffalo loses week one of the playoffs, they panic and make a switch. Going into a new stadium, all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff, don't be shocked.
Yeah, I mean, they're the most similar team to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, they obviously had a
Mhm.
better performing season, right? But
Right?
the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills have been the two nipping at the heels of the Kansas City Chiefs, and this is the year to strike, right? The Chiefs aren't there,
Exactly.
so they're looking at it as a must win AFC championship season to make it to the Super Bowl and give yourself a shot. And I
Mhm.
think anything short of that, Sean McDermott's already been kind of on the fence where they're like, hey, do we want to keep him? He's been winning a lot of games. Do we need to get a new spark that's going to lift us up to the level that we want to get to? We're close. We're not quite there. There's been so much back and forth on whether Sean McDermott's a good coach in the last couple years or not. So I think anything short of them making the Super Bowl, there's a very good chance that they finally cut the cord, similar to what the Baltimore Ravens just did.
And I just thought as you were talking, look at our week one matchup of Baltimore versus Buffalo. And you and I both were convinced that was the AFC Championship game this year. How
Yeah.
crazy would it be, fast forward all these weeks later, that neither one of them had the same head coach by maybe this time next week? How wild would that be?
It would be crazy. Well, let's talk about the NFC first before we get to the AFC because we've got a few NFC matchups on Saturday. Now, this one's interesting for the sole fact of you of the Los Angeles Rams. They're the 5 seed wild card favorites going to Carolina, going up against the Panthers. Now, remember, the Panthers, they pulled off an upset at home not all that long ago against the Los Angeles Rams. So, Vince, in the regular season, the thing is, can history repeat itself? And I'm going to say, pretty straightforward, easy answer. NFC South, terrible division. The Carolina Panthers made it through courtesy of, even though they lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got help from the Atlanta Falcons beating the New Orleans Saints. Different different result there in that Saints Falcons game, and it's the Buccaneers that are the team in this. And I think the Buccaneers are the better team. Props to the Carolina Panthers for having a good season, doing better than I would say most anybody thought they actually would do this year. But that being said, the Rams are going to roll. Matthew Stafford, Puka Nacua, that offense, that team in general. I think defense is going to handle the offense of the Panthers, shut them down for the most part. They're going to have no problem scoring 34-13, not even close. And the Panthers find themselves out of the playoffs pretty quickly.
Yeah, a couple things here. I'll make them all short and sweet. The Rams are not going to lose twice. They've probably had this game circled for a while now. They shouldn't have lost this one. They shouldn't have lost in Seattle a few weeks ago, which eventually caused their downfall a little bit to wind up as the fifth seed instead of competing for number one seed last weekend. So, a couple losses the Rams wanted to have back. Will now have the chance to get them both back. I believe they're going to be the Panthers. I agree with you. Panthers have lost 3 out of 4. Their last two straight. I mean, it's crazy to think this team's back. I mean, if there was ever a team to back into a championship, like how do you celebrate that? Like just so weird to me. Yeah, I don't even think this game's going to be close. There's not a lot about the Panthers that's great by any stretch. I like the growth though. I have to say I like Rico Dowdle. He had a decent season. Gave them an option at running back that they needed. Bryce Young definitely showed some growth, but overall, man, Rams are loaded. If they lose this game, there's a serious problem in Los Angeles. So I agree with you. Won't give you a score, but I will say the Rams will win this. Only other thing I'll say, crazy enough, this happens every couple of years. Every couple of years, you get a division that's horrible, where the team that wins the division is either back in the old days when there was only 16 games, was either 8-8 or 7-9, like would barely get in, and then somehow host a playoff game and win it. Tampa Bay did this a couple of years ago. Baker Mayfield's first year there had a losing record, won the division, won their first playoff game. So it can be done. At least in my lifetime, it's been done quite a few times. But I don't see the Panthers being able to do it. This time around, common sense should take over, going with the Rams.
But we both think that should be an easy one. At least that is the appetizer on Saturday, because the actual main course, the good game, is we have an NFC North matchup between the Green Bay Packers, as you mentioned. They're going to Chicago to play against the Chicago Bears, who ended up winning their division. And Vince, think this is a tough one to call. This is if there are a few games that I had I guess circled mentally where I'm like I think there's a chance that we could go opposite directions. This is probably one of those here because it's really tough when you have division rivals facing each other in the wild card round to start the playoffs. And I think it really could go either way. So you have the Packers who have in recent history been the much better franchise. The Bears, who um, they've had their moments where they've been good, but for a long time the Chicago Bears have been on the flip side of the coin. They haven't been very good. You have to dig further into their history to actually see really quality championship level Bears teams. The question is, Vince, one, can the Bears win this game? And two, if they win, are they actually a championship caliber Bears squad?
They are a championship caliber Bears squad. However, two things. One, you and I spoke about it about a month and a half ago. We said the Bears would be one of those teams that would get in the playoffs and get smoked week one. It came out of both our mouths. Go back and listen to it. And two, here's the thing, right? You don't spin in the wind, you don't talk Superman's cape. They were beaten soundly by Green Bay in the regular season when they played about a month ago. Okay. Green Bay at full strength beat them few weeks ago on a Saturday night. I'll never forget this because I think it was like right before Christmas. Emily and I were upstairs watching it together. Green Bay should have won that game. Jordan Love got hurt. They were still up by 10. And it took fluke after fluke for Chicago to come back, score a touchdown, get an onside kick, or actually kick a field goal, get an onside kick, score a touchdown, get a stop in overtime, and then throw like a 40-yard touchdown pass. It was one of those weird nights where every single thing went right for Chicago. Love Ben Johnson. I'm surprised by Caleb Williams. I was not a Caleb Williams fan. He's had a hell of a second year. Got to take my hat off to him. I just think Green Bay is the better team. I don't maybe I just do. I just do. And I'm not trying to give into the preseason hype, but I just feel like on paper, Green Bay should win this game. The more experienced head coach, they're a little bit more inspired. Now, a lot of people probably feel they're the underdog coming into this. They probably think to themselves, how the hell didn't we win this division? Like, if Detroit didn't win it, should have been ours. They have to be frustrated. If Jordan Love's healthy, and I'm told that he is, they should win this game. I've always said when it's this close, I go with who I truly believe is the better team, the better head coach. In this situation, I really do think the quarterbacks are about even, but going with Green Bay.
I will say this up front, and you're right that we both said that the Bears would get blown out in the first week. It absolutely could still happen, right? But I'll say that with my prediction, no matter which way I was going here, I'll eat my words a little bit because this Bears team is better than I expected. Even if they lose this game, there's no reason that they should get blown out. Could it
Oh,
happen? It absolutely
yeah,
can, but it should actually be a good game. That
agreed.
being said, I'm on the same page as you. This Green Bay Packers team coming into the year, even now, I still think they're the better team on paper. I think that they should win this game. Something I have to say about the Packers, though, that's funny is, right, they got Micah Parsons earlier in the year. And then the funny thing too is they just signed Trayvon Diggs here recently off of waivers after the Dallas Cowboys cut him. I know Trayvon Diggs has had his injuries recently, but a few years ago, the best two players on the Cowboys defense was Micah Parsons and Trayvon Diggs. So now
Yeah,
they have the Cowboys' two best players, one from getting Parsons earlier in the year, and now they just signed the one who got cut off of waivers. So how about that? The Packers, really pulling in some of that Dallas Cowboys talent, what they
yeah.
actually had on that defense, which is pretty funny. Regardless, though, this year, not like Diggs is making an impact really this year. That's more of a down the road, I think, future thing. But Parsons, though, very good player, can make an impact. Him, Rashawn Gary, Van Ness, a few of their pass rushers. I think there's a chance that they could still get in the backfield here, create a little bit of havoc for Caleb Williams, make it difficult for him. So if that defense plays well, their front gets after Williams, I think they're going to make it difficult for him to pick apart the defense and throw the ball. Now, Kyle Monangai, I'm big on Kyle Monangai. What a great late round pickup, right? That's I believe he's a seventh rounder this past draft. What a steal out of Rutgers. Runs hard, physical runner. I think he's got a long future with the Chicago Bears. They're going to need him, I think, to be physical in this game to grind for some yards and have some tough running. But again, I just think that Packers team overall is just a better team. So close ball game, 27-23. But again, that seventh seed, they should advance here in the NFC.
Yeah, and here's the thing too: 11-6, the Bears are, but they had 5 wins in the last 2 minutes. Five. So you figure if even they went 3-2 in that stretch, take away two of those wins, they would have finished 9-7. Whatever. Yeah, they would have been like 8 and something goofy, 9-8. But regardless, so yeah, they would have been 9-8. So it is kind of crazy. Those last 2 minutes can decide a lot. They've also lost two in a row. They barely beat the Packers, and after that they lost two in a row. I mean, they couldn't stop San Francisco. Brock flipping Purdy threw 5 touchdown passes against them. So we'll see. Packers should win this game. I don't have much more to say, but excited to watch it.
So we have four more games to go, and we can get to Sunday. And this is where we get into the AFC a little bit here. So the Buffalo Bills traveling to Jacksonville up against the Jaguars. We just talked about it. Hey, this is a situation where the Bills, if they go on to win, right, do they have a really good shot to make a run towards winning the AFC Championship, making it to the Super Bowl? Potentially, right? Kansas City Chiefs don't stand in their way, so can that help Josh Allen get over that Kansas City Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes hump that we've seen? What's standing in their way is a Jacksonville Jaguars team that's been really hot. And Liam Cohen, great coaching hire for them. I know he's like your favorite coach
Oh
this
man.
year. And I'll say this, Vince, this Jaguars team is as much as I think Josh Allen is this is potentially going to be controversial, right? I think Josh Allen is the best quarterback in the NFL.
Yes.
Patrick Mahomes is very, very good, right? It's one of those things where when we look back at it and we see all the championships, and if somebody from this era, they're going to compare anybody like, hey, Tom Brady won all these championships, or these quarterbacks won all the championships. Patrick Mahomes is the one going to get lumped in that group. But if we're talking about just pure skill set, Josh Allen has the bigger arm. He's the bigger, more physical runner. I think everything that he does, in my opinion, for the most part, is more impressive. Maybe like the one thing that Mahomes does better than Allen is that while he's falling, that diving sidearm throw and having that accuracy. Aside from that, for on an impressive standpoint, again, I just think Josh Allen is the more well-rounded quarterback. He just doesn't have the wins championship wise to show for like Mahomes has. So as good as I think Josh Allen is, as good as I think James Cook is, this Jags team special, Vince. Give me the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think they win at home. They're going to advance here 35 to 24, and them beating the Buffalo Bills in this wild card round puts them in a really good spot confidence wise to make
Yep.
a run here. I would watch out for Jacksonville.
Yeah, they play well as the underdog too. So that was the other thing I wanted to point out is that Liam Coleman, since really he took that job, has had them feeling like an underdog, right? Like no one respects us. You're playing from behind and just nonstop effort. That's when you play with a chip on your shoulder, it works a lot of times. I knew as an athlete, I was always the smallest one on the team. people who have met me out there, I'm 5'6", right? So I was never one of the bigger kids on the team, I assure you. But you play with that mentality, and you have this mentality that we can beat anybody. The one thing I'll say about Buffalo is I agree with both things you said. One, I do think Josh Allen's the best quarterback in football. My favorite quarterbacks, I'll say them again. I love Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Justin Herbert, and Patrick Mahomes. What do all those guys have in common? They're all in the AFC, right? I've always said the last couple of years, the AFC is very top heavy. As I look over my homes to see if I missed anybody, it's just one of those things with Buffalo where I don't know if they've been snake bitten. Everybody talks about that 13 seconds a couple of years ago against Kansas City. They've had so many chances. You would think this is the year because with James Cook over 1,600 yards, 1,615 yards for James Cook, this was easily the best season he ever had. You feel like everything's lined up perfectly for them. But the problem is this right here, and I'll say it again. Jacksonville is playing with hunger. Jacksonville is playing with that chip on their shoulder, where Buffalo is playing with, hey, we don't want to choke this away. We don't want to lose. We don't want to. This is our chance. If we can't do it this year, it might never happen for us. No Joe Burrow, no Lamar Jackson, no Patrick Mahomes. This is our chance. When you play tight, that's not a real good thing. It's not a real good thing. A lot of people with LeBron James either they played with LeBron and they excelled because they had the pressure on them, or they weren't the same because they didn't want to play with him. It was tough to have that pressure. So, how is a pro athlete going to take it? How is a coach going to take it? So many things to decide here. This is a situation though where if you and I were 1 or 2 games apart, I would pick Buffalo. The fact that we're 11 gave me a little bit of room, gave me a little bit of room to play around a little bit, and I'm going with my heart on this one. As much as I love Josh Allen, I think it would be crazy chaos if Jacksonville wins this game. I'm going with the Jaguars too. This is going to be a blast. Don't make any plans for me, Emily. Sunday at 1 o'clock. I want to witness this sucker live. I might even order a pizza with some of that cheese in the crust. I am so excited for this one. Um, Again, heart says one thing, head says another, but we're going to go with a heart on this one. I want to see this happen. And I'm not even a big Trevor Lawrence guy. I'm really, truly not. But he's easily had the best season of his career. And
Yeah.
we've talked about coaching. Sometimes maybe it's just the coach. Doug Peterson, they ran his ass out of Philadelphia. They've been to 2 Super Bowls since. They've won one of them, right? Maybe he just isn't the guy. Let's see what Jacksonville could do. Picking the Jaguars, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you what, the two biggest things from this game, and this is the one I'm most excited for, but story-wise that could come out of this. If Trevor Lawrence, the last like 5 or 6 weeks, like he was good throughout the season, but then he has just been
Took off.
killer. He is turned it on at the end. And this is the first glimpses of Trevor Lawrence looking like the Trevor Lawrence that people expected him coming out of college, right? He was supposed to be one of the next comings of some
Mhm.
of the greatest quarterbacks, right? The expected to be a top five type of NFL guy for a long time, and he has not ever touched that point. I would say when you rank the NFL quarterbacks, right? He's been one of those guys who's been right on that. Is he top 10? Is he just outside of the top 10 looking in? He's been borderline. Now, he's been playing the last couple weeks. He'd have more time to go before he'd get to this point. But he's been playing like a borderline top five guy.
Yep.
He really has. And for those who play fantasy football, again, I believe this year he's quarterback number 4 when it comes to points as well. So great year for him. If he performs and outplays Josh Allen, that's just going to be a really big storyline if he outplays Josh Allen and they win this game. The other big storyline is you and I are both on the same page, so I think that both means we're projecting that Sean McDermott is out of a job.
Yeah. And agreed. And at the same time, too, the game that I'm not going to say it turned it around because it was already going pretty good for the Jaguars. What I call a treadmill game. So a lot of times on Sunday night or Monday night, I'll be at the gym on the treadmill and on my phone to watch it. And I'll never forget because this was one of my treadmill games. It was a Monday night football game where Jacksonville beat Kansas City. And it was like that was kind of the death blow in a lot of ways for Kansas City. and at the same time, kind of the wake up call for America, like, hey, Jacksonville might be for real, right? I'll never forget that game because they were driving in to win it. Jacksonville was, and they fumbled the ball. And what Lawrence picked it up and still ran it in for a touchdown. I mean, it was a wild play. I can't remember if he fumbled it or if he just fell backwards, got up and ran in. I forget, but I remember it was a wild play. He scored. They won the game, and that was kind of like a turning point. So yeah. So I guess we are. I guess we're both predicting Jacksonville and McDermott to be out of a job. This is wild. Who would have
Yeah,
thought it?
yeah, that it is. Well, the next game, Vince, Philadelphia Eagles, the defending champs. They're not the 1 seed. They're not the 2 seed. Considering again they're the 3 seed and have a very good record. Kind of a quiet season for them. I don't
Yep.
feel like I've heard a lot about the Eagles
Nope.
much of this season, aside from AJ Brown being disgruntled for not getting enough receptions
Yeah.
for so long, especially early in the year. But aside from that, pretty quiet. They go up against the San Francisco 49ers team that's probably overachieved with all the injuries that they have on defense.
Mhm.
Vince, do the Eagles handily win this one?
Not handily. They do win. They're my prediction to win. Here's the thing, though. I feel like you and I have talked about the short-handed 49ers
Hmm.
all season long, but they keep winning.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy was playing out of his mind. They went the month of December, and I think they only had a punt like 3 times in an entire month. I mean, their offense caught fire there for a while. Anytime you got a guy like Christian McCaffrey on your team, you have a chance. You know what I mean? He's good for a reason, so you have that chance. But at the end of the day, I feel like I said it earlier with the Rams, and I'll say it with Philadelphia. Eventually, common sense has to take over. Like, you get into the playoffs, you're in the playoffs for a reason. The better teams need to start winning. There's a reason Philadelphia is here. I have to believe the Eagles win this one. I am not confident. I mean, as I look at all these picks, I really truly believe the only one where I'm like unbelievably confident, but we haven't talked about yet. And then this one, I'm sorry, the earlier one with the Rams. So this is one I have zero confidence in, but I do believe Philadelphia is going to win. Going with the Eagles.
This is probably my second most confident game behind the Rams beating the
Yeah. Okay.
Panthers. The Eagles should beat the 49ers here. Again, I know that the 49ers have continued to win games, but still, I think them being shorthanded is going to come back to bite them at some point. I would think it would be now. Purdy, again, I still think, and credit to him, he's played really well. I still think he's more of a system quarterback, but the biggest difference for them, Christian McCaffrey, when he's healthy, he's a game changer. But
Right.
don't forget Saquon Barkley's on the other sideline, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you have next to, in my opinion, I think Bijan Robinson right now is the best running back in the NFL. He's just not with the franchise that's able to make it to the playoffs and do much of anything. But these two guys, McCaffrey, Saquon Barkley, again, um, part of that group of the best running backs in the NFL. It's a good matchup there, but even though this Eagles team's been kind of quiet this year, and I say this is a lower scoring game, Eagles 22, 49ers 10. I think you have to remember that even though this is the 3 seed, this team's still loaded from last year's NFL Super Bowl winning roster, right? They
Mhm.
have a ton of guys back who had been there. This could be one of those things where they slid under the radar, and if the Eagles start to get hot, they get a little momentum here. And at least in my opinion, when I look at this and how games line up for the wild card round and then looking forward, I think if the Rams and the Eagles get hot, both of those teams are very, very dangerous moving forward in the NFC. I think Los Angeles and Philly are probably the two scariest teams there,
Yeah.
and especially with their matchups where they get
Yep.
games that they should win, and if they get some confidence, and they didn't have a dogfight like Chicago and Green Bay could be a dogfight. Some of those games on the AFC side could be a dogfight. Man, they could be set up really well moving forward long term. So, not a whole lot more I
100%.
need to say, but that Eagles team, if they start to get a little bit of momentum, watch out for Philly.
100%. 100%. When they're playing at their best, I'll say this right now. For the 7 teams who are the NFC side of the bracket, when they're playing at their best, Philadelphia and the Rams are the two best teams. Couldn't agree with you more. To me, that I got to look at how the brackets and there's re-bracketing and all that stuff. But if that ends up being the NFC Championship game, I kind of feel like it will be and should be. That to me is a phenomenal matchup that could happen. I still don't believe in the Seahawks. I decide how the hell they went 14-3 is beyond me. I really don't know. But regardless, I couldn't agree with you more. So I don't have a lot to add on other than, as you said, the Eagles have been there before. The talent's there, the coaching's there. I mean, this staff's been to two Super Bowls already, right? One or lost to Mahomes, beat Mahomes. So you gotta believe they'll be able to be the 49ers. So far, we have picked four games identical, which I'm kind of surprised by.
Four identical. We got one more, the Sunday night game. We have the Monday game as well, and these two both AFC matchups. And I think both of these are interesting. I think there's a good chance that people could argue that both could go either way. Patriots, Chargers. Chargers, the wild card team. They have to go to New England. This New England team with Mike Vrabel. They've been good, and I expected them to be a playoff team this year, but they've been better than I even expected, right? Winning their division. They're really disciplined. Um, Justin Herbert's the better quarterback here, right? That could be a difference maker. It makes me want to say, hey, the Chargers, they might pull off the upset here. That being said, give me the disciplined Vrabel-led New England Patriots. I like them to win. They were in that hunt in a tight race with the Denver Broncos to get that number one seed. They didn't. The Broncos got the bye, and the Patriots they have to play. But that being said, I think even though this could be a close game, could be a really good game. I have this 26-20, and the more disciplined team wins this game.
It's amazing to me because the Chargers never took that jump this year, right? Like, I kept waiting for them to take that jump. We saw the Broncos take it out of nowhere. You know what I mean? Like, I would have said this year, if the Chiefs aren't going to win the division, who is? The Chargers. And it wouldn't even took me 2 seconds to answer you. You know, very surprised that the Broncos have been as good as they are. I'm happy about it. But the Chargers, to me, have been a team all year long where it's like they're winning 2 out of 3. They're winning 2 out of 3. You've never seen them win more than two in a row. You've never seen them win some giant game. You've never seen them like look like some elite team. They just haven't. Maybe it's the lack of a running game at times. I don't really know. You know what I mean? I can't really put my finger on one thing. And as much as I love Jim Harbaugh, and I really do, the Patriots just have that swagger about them. And when they're playing at Gillette Stadium, they don't often lose in December or January at Gillette. They'll have the home field. Vrabel, I don't think he's going to be scared of anything. Yeah, your quarterback's young. He's in the second year, but what about Drake May this year has shown you that he can't do it? Nothing. I mean, this kid has shown poise galore. He got sacked 5 times by Myles Garrett and still lit up the Browns. You know what I mean? So this is the kind of kid that he's got some blind confidence going on right now. Again, I think he feels disrespected. All the talk last year about Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, and he was completely left out. Well, look at where we're at right now, right? Same record as the Denver Broncos. Flip a coin. Going with the Patriots. This to me though is going to be a game where I think you see a lot of people in the national media actually pick the Chargers, but I am picking the Patriots.
So one more left to go. Will we have different picks? And I will say this is probably the one I
Oh,
feel the least confident in.
really?
Yeah, I think I feel very not confident at all when it comes to this one on Monday night. You have the Pittsburgh Steelers. They made it through, but they play host to the Houston Texans. And Vince, you get to start this one off. You are wearing the Pittsburgh Steelers colors. Are you going to take the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I'm cold. I have the flu, so that's why I put on. I just grabbed the first hoodie I could find. No, no. I got a love hate relationship with Aaron Rodgers because as much like he's so easy to hate, but at the same time, it's like, can you really blame the guy for being a prick? So like he's a leader. I don't know if I'd want to be his teammate. Like it's so he's so weird. It's just a weird superstar. I love Mike Tomlin as well. How Pittsburgh fans could ever complain about Mike Tomlin That blows my mind. I don't understand it for the life of me. That guy is taking quarterbacks like Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges and loads of crap. Every time Big Ben would go out, he'd have a backup quarterback. He'd still get you a winning record. No receivers. You know what I mean?
Uh,
Like he just, I don't know why they hate that guy. I am
I have
picking
a different
Houston.
take on that, but
Oh, I can't wait to hear it. Well, I'm just saying, um, Houston, their defense is nasty. My God. So I'm going on defense alone here. Whew. I mean, okay, really, DK Metcalf's that big of a difference maker? I don't think so. I think Houston shuts his. I think they shut him down. Um, yeah, I'm going with Houston. It's crazy. I can't wait to hear your pick. I'm excited to hear this because to me, next to the Rams, I had this as number two as my most confident pick.
yeah, I am not
Houston
confident
all
at
day.
all because I think defenses win this game. Pittsburgh has a good defense, right? The
Mhm.
Houston Texans have a good defense. I have this one as 17-9, very low scoring game, and I went with the Texans. I'm on the same page as you. However, however, I do not feel good about this pick. Um,
Really?
I
Yeah.
think Houston has not had a good offensive line, and I can't even remember when Houston's had a good
True.
offensive line.
True.
So could TJ Watt and Cam Hayward and Highsmith can they wreak some havoc there in the backfield and potentially sack CJ Stroud a ton? I think they absolutely could get after CJ Stroud, and this could be a game where he gets sacked a bunch, and ultimately then the Steelers they win the game just because they score over 10 points and the Houston Texans don't, right? I mean, I could certainly see that happening with them being at home. Um, I haven't been able to trust. There's been a lot of up and down with the Houston Texans offense, right? They've gone on a good run here later, as of late. They didn't start the season off too well.
Nope.
So could I see them return to what they were earlier in the season when they were struggling offensively? I could. I think they have the better team slightly at the moment. Um, but it's all going to depend upon can CJ Stroud get any time to throw because I don't expect them to have much of a run game. They haven't had a reliable run game throughout the season. They're probably a true number one running back away as well on that offense where they need a true workhorse back who's in his prime, not a Nick Chubb who, was beyond his time, unfortunately, because of injuries. So it's been on Woody Marks, who is more of a third down shifty guy who should be that number two in your 1-2 punch. So Vince, that's why I'm iffy on it. It just comes down to can CJ Stroud get any time, or will TJ Watt and what's always a good defensive front for the Pittsburgh Steelers really cause some trouble for them, and that's why I'm not confident.
Well, I see that, right? And you're 100% right about the no offensive line. Funny enough, um, I am old enough to, I mean, the entire run of the Texans I've been alive for. It's an 0-2 franchise. They've only been around 24 years. And it's never been a different story. You look back to the number one pick of David Carr, in their first ever draft way back when in 0-2. He got sacked 70 times, 7-0 in his rookie season. How insane is that, right? And you look 24 years later, not much different. They've never had an offensive line. We knew going into the season, you and I did at least. We weren't naive. We knew Nick Chubb was done. There's nothing he's done this year that makes me think any different on that one. The tread is definitely worn off those tires. So what were they going to be able to do? Well, in a weird way, one of the best things that happened to them was CJ Stroud getting hurt. Davis Mills came in, won 3 straight games, and you see since Stroud came, everybody counted him out. And since CJ Stroud has been back in as a starting quarterback, he's played pretty well, right? So did that light a fire underneath him and say, hey, I gotta wake up and play? Like this could go south on me pretty quick. There you go. I mean, yeah, I mean, again, yes, that offensive line concerns me. Pittsburgh's, they've been there before. They're at home. They got the veteran quarterback. On paper, when you really kind of look at everything, on paper, you would say to yourself, "Oh, Pittsburgh's a safe bet," but I'm going with the eye test. Pittsburgh sucks. Like the fact that they're in the playoffs is a joke. If they somehow win this game, like God bless them. That's all I can say. But I can't see them. If they beat Houston, they have to be done the following week.
So Vince, we picked all the same through all those games. I'm going to say this, and I want to leave it with this as we're going to wrap up this show.
Sure.
My explanation of Mike Tomlin and the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it's what I said coming into this season, and it is what has come to fruition and happened once again. And I have friends and some family members and people who are Pittsburgh Steelers fans as well, and I have said it to them, and they've 100% agreed with me. I have not met a Pittsburgh Steelers fan that I've said this to that they have disagreed in recent times. So the Pittsburgh Steelers have been hard-hitting, physical, tough defense for as long as I can remember. So they've always been good defensively. They've been really bad, subpar to poor offensively for
Yeah.
quite a long time.
Last 10 years.
Mike Tomlin is a good coach, but him being a good enough coach with a very good defense, where even with a bad offense, they managed to get a winning record. And so you can predict it's almost like Groundhog Day.
Hmm.
Pittsburgh Steelers fans are living the same season over and over and over and over again, year after year after year. They're going to be 9-7 or 10-6. They're going to sneak into the playoffs or even just miss the playoffs by
Yep.
being 9-7, just being on the outside looking in. So they're going to hover right on that border, whether they miss or whether they make it in. And if they make it in, they're not good enough to get past the wild card round. And even if they pull off a miracle, there's no chance of them making a run. So the thing is, the Pittsburgh Steelers always know they're going to finish with a winning record, be right on the border, and it's like you're one of those teams where you're never going to tank because Mike Tomlin's a good enough coach. You always have a good enough defense to where you're not never going to tank and actually get good draft picks to help you build an offense that would be helpful for the future. And you're not there to be at the level where you're a Super Bowl contender. So you're stuck right in the middle in this draft pick hell, right? The worst spot where you can't get a good early draft pick. The Steelers, they typically do a good job drafting, but like, when are you going to actually just fold and tank, get a top 10 pick, and even be like, hey, we still got a great defense. Let's add some really nice offensive weapons. And now that can propel us into next year, maybe actually being up there as a Super Bowl contender. I actually think there are a lot of, at least every Steelers fan that I have talked to, and there are going to be plenty that disagree. I think they're hoping that at some point they just get rid of Mike Tomlin, tank for one season, get the luxury of some nice draft picks in the top 10, and they feel like, hey, 1 year later, they're up in Super Bowl contention with the likes of teams that we had talked about, who they're down this year, right? But they could be up there with the Kansas City Chiefs, the Buffalo Bills, the Baltimore Ravens. That's why they're tired of Mike Tomlin. It's because it's Groundhog Day over and over again.
As much as you say that, and I agree with you 100%. Good luck trying to get a Pittsburgh Steelers fan to push aside their ego for 2 seconds and admit the truth. Every,
Again,
everything you just said is 100% accurate.
multiple people who are Steelers fans I've talked to coming into this year, and they said the same thing. It's
Pretty
Groundhog Day.
accurate.
It's Groundhog Day. They've lived the
Hmm.
same season over and over again. They're tired of it. They're bored.
It's true. I can't argue that point, man. That's true. And the crazy thing is it's like, hey, this guy, we fill out his performance review every year, and every year he meets requirements. When
Yes.
is this guy ever going to hit exceeds requirements or takes the next step? There's an old saying in professional wrestling, which I've had on the TV behind me this entire time, but they've often said about certain guys, you can't buy the groceries with potential, right? So you gotta eventually at some point be in the main event. You can't be in the middle match every single time there's a show. That is Pittsburgh right now. Pittsburgh, they're not crappy enough to be, the first match. They're not good enough to be the main event. They're just that solid in the middle, go get your popcorn and watch them play type thing. It's such a blue collar town, right? Like if you could get Dom Clary, one of our best friends to admit, yeah, that's what they need to do. They should fire Tomlin, restart, kind of. I just don't see it happening. They're stuck in that middle of the road purgatory.
And maybe I need to talk to Dom because Dom, I have not ran it by him, so he could maybe be the one to disagree. But I'll say this: I think in any Steelers fan's mind, with how good their defense has been and their success over the years, I think
Hmm.
if you would ask them, well, what if I were to ask you, what if you tanked for one season and got a top 10 draft pick, and would you be a Super Bowl contender the next year? And I think almost everybody would say, yeah, absolutely, we'd be a Super Bowl contender the next year.
Well, they didn't tank to get Kenny Pickett, but I think the more naive, we saw Dom go nuts on the draft show saying we're gonna win the Super Bowl. Like I think the more naive Pittsburgh Steelers fan did think that, like, oh hey, here we go, we got a quarterback. Look what it couldn't have bombed any worse than it did.
Yeah. Well,
But that's Kenny Pickett for God's
it,
sake. So yeah.
again, I just think they would be less bored if something happened. I think if they were envious of Cleveland Browns fans for one thing, right?
Drama.
It's because they want an early draft pick. Because they haven't had one for so long. I can't remember the last time the Pittsburgh Steelers have actually had a somewhat early draft pick. So if they could just get that once, it's like they want one of two things to not be bored, right? Can we have an early draft pick or can we win a Super Bowl? Well, they're not even close to either right now. So,
Nope. I'll give you that.
if it keeps going down the same path, I can tell you what the record's going to be next year, right now, and this is January 7th that we're recording this show.
9-7-1.
9-8.
Yeah. You know what? We started the show talking about coaches. We might as well end the show talking about coaches. The one coach who still has a job today, and I scratch my head, is Cincinnati's head coach, who his name's on the tip of my tongue. I just
Zach Taylor.
thank you, Zach Taylor. Just drew a blank. Mind boggling. How cheap is your organization that this guy's your answer year after year? He is terrible. Terrible. That's all I'll say. It amazes me. John Harbaugh's gone. Mike Tomlin was almost gone if they missed the field goal, allegedly, or if they made the field goal. All kinds of talk there. But Zach Taylor, Stefanski's gone, but Zach Taylor continues to be the pillar of the AFC North. Guy's a joke.
It would have been so funny if Zach Taylor was the only coach left standing in the AFC North.
It could have happened because I think they were going to fire John Harbaugh regardless. I think even if Baltimore would have won that game, Pittsburgh would have fired Tomlin. Baltimore probably would have lost this weekend. I think he was getting fired regardless because if you look at the comments from Lamar Jackson, they weren't meshing. It just wasn't happening.
The only way he wasn't getting fired is if they went on to win a Super Bowl
That
and
was
went
it.
on to run. Same as what I think with McDermott.
Yeah, I think so too.
So,
But
well,
you
there
don't
you
hear
have
anybody
it.
talk about that. Our conversation tonight was like the first. I mean, I talked about it with Brandon last week, but really, you and I, like, I haven't heard anybody talk about that. I just haven't. McDermott.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. There's going to be talk about it for sure if they lose that game.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Okay. Well, Vince, great chatting with you. A lot of good conversations, and we'll see how Wild Card Weekend goes. We'll see if we go 6-0, or if we miss any picks here this week. But a lot of good games. Excited for it, and we'll be back, of course, next week as the playoffs continue. Everybody have a great night. Vince, looks like you're going to say something. Any
Oh,
final
I was gonna say,
thoughts?
I look forward to it. And next week, if I could avoid it somehow, I will avoid wearing Pittsburgh Steelers colors. Again, caught a cold chill. Grab the first sweatshirt I could find. But for the record, it's AEW, which again is the wrestling on the screen behind me. And that was the reason. That's all. No one out there cares. People are like, just shut up. So, yep, that's all I got for you.
Sounds good. Remember, Pittsburgh fans, Groundhog Day. See you again next season.